And this is what we'll talk about this morning as well. The voice you obey is your God. The voice you listen to is your Father's voice. Everyone obeys voices. Everyone is a disciple of something. So if you have your Bibles, you can turn to Matthew chapter 4, and we're going to look at a play in 3 acts. And I'm going to ask the question this morning, who will follow? The Lord has just come from his own baptism and from his own experience of what? Receiving an anointing of the Holy Spirit and hearing his Father's affirming voice. This is my beloved Son. Everything starts there. How you act will come out of who you are. How you live will flow out of who you see yourself to be and whose voice you listen to. Gail and I have been talking some this week about the issue of discipline. And discipline is, for many of us, a bad word. If you say, what is discipline? People think of it in a bad way. And nowadays, God forbid that anybody would suffer discipline. Well, is it legal to hurt anybody's feelings these days? I think it's illegal. I think it's immoral, illegal, just plain wrong. And but the word discipline is from the word disciple. If you are a disciple, you walk in discipline. And we see that acted out in testings and temptations. I've had to do some work on this because there's been some interesting stuff come out from our recent Pope about the Lord's Prayer needing adjusting. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. And some friends of mine even changed the way they use the Lord's Prayer after that. We won't be doing that. And I looked at this because I looked at the word testing and the word temptation. Let me tell you something. It's the same word in the Greek language. There is a place where there's a separate word used for the test. My slides have gone away. So if we can get them back. I don't know if I did that or not. There is a place where there's another word used, but in most places you can actually see them interchanged. Now, let me just real quickly. The issue centers around whether God tempts us. He does not. Of course he does not. And James makes that clear, and the Bible makes that clear. But oh, by the way, he will throw you in the deep end. Listen, a God who is there for you, a God who is with you, can send you wherever he wants. And in the case of figures of the Scripture, they would find themselves confronted with an adversary. This adversary has been confronting you probably this week. This adversary and minions of this adversary. Then Jesus was led up by the Spirit. How? How? Now this passage actually says he was driven by the Spirit into the wilderness. Where? All I have to do is start talking about wilderness experiences, and half of you will say you're in the wilderness. I promise you, if I talk about wilderness, I talk to people all the time, say, well, how's things going? Well, I'm kind of in the wilderness. That's kind of a way for them to tell me, well, I'm not really walking with the Lord right now because it's hard. I'm in the wilderness. Well, the wilderness is the place of testing in the Bible. The wilderness is always the place of testing, and the test always shows what's there. You know how you have to take a blood test? It's so that you can show what's there. You know how if you have to do a fitness test, it's to show what's there. And you do know that if you compete in anything, you have to be tested first, right? You do know if you accomplish any kind of degree, you have to be tested, right? Testing is a necessary, essential part of discipleship, of discipline, of growing. And after all, the sub-theme of my life is, can we please grow up? Lately, I've been wanting to say, I'm just looking for a few grown-ups. We need some grown-ups in the room. Then Jesus was led up by the Spirit, driven to be what? Tempted, i.e., same word, tested by the devil. And after 40 days and 40 nights, he was hungry, and the tempter came and said to him, if you are the Son of God, there it is, right there. All right, unpack it a minute. It's all the way through the Bible. Remember, Jesus is repeating what's already been in the Bible. Jesus is literally reenacting creation story. He's literally reenacting the call of Israel story. In each of those stories, what do you have? You have a creation, then you have a test. You have an adversary, and you're tested by the adversary. So this is Jesus being tested by the adversary. And, oh, by the way, in this case, there's that number 40. It's there intentionally. Moses, we know, fasted 40 days and 40 nights. The children of Israel were tested in the wilderness for 40 years. The number 40 means testing. My wife and I had our 40th anniversary a couple of years ago, and I said, finally, the test is over. Can I stay? And I said, and you know this means from here on it's promised land. Testing. After 40 days and 40 nights, he was what? Hungry. And the tempter came and said to him, what? The tempter comes and tests him on the last word he heard from his father. Even as Eve was tested on the last word that is recorded that she heard from God. Has God said? Is that what he really said? Jesus is tested. If you are the Son of God. We just closed our text last week with the heavens opening and the voice coming from heaven. This is my beloved Son. And here comes the tester and he says, really? Because if you are, command these stones to become loaves of bread. Remember, when Israel went out into the wilderness, they experienced the testing of bread. And you will face the test of bread in your life. If you follow Jesus, you're going to get tested with the test of bread. And after fasting 40 days and 40 nights, he was hungry. And the tempter said, if you're the Son of God, command these stones to become loaves of bread. But he answered, it is written. Remember, by the way, we already looked at the Sermon on the Mount before Christmas, and there he's confronted with people, and he says to them, you have heard it said. Talking about what their teachers have said, but here's when he's confronting with the devil. He says, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every what? Word that comes from the... Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God. Now, let's just take a look at this. Well, first of all, it's a redo. You had Eden, the temptation, the forbidden fruit, failure cast from the garden. The wilderness temptation, they build a golden calf. They're consigned to wander for 40 years. Here's the messianic temptation. Encounters the devil. See ya. Hallelujah. We just got through watching. We like national championships, right? I'm following the champion. I'm following the conqueror. I'm following the one who is and was and is to come. The one who won and wins. I'm following the one who won the battle. And in this play of 3 acts, here is the testing and the temptation, and he defeats the enemy. So guess what? Before he calls any soldiers to go to war, he wins the battle. We spend so much of our time following losers and their voices. People that come and say, is that what God says to you to do? Here's what you do. Just take a look at their life and say, you think I should follow you rather than him? Oh, that would be judgmental. Do you not know that you will judge the world? It's written. Jesus says it. Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God. Now, you know what he just did? He quoted, of all things, Deuteronomy. How many of you spend a lot of time quoting Deuteronomy to the devil? Deuteronomy is the most quoted book in the New Testament, and it's the most quoted book by Jesus. And it's no accident that every quote that Jesus gives in this passage, in this experience, will come from the book of Deuteronomy, where the children of Israel are in the wilderness about to enter promised land, and where Jesus draws strength from the word that God has spoken so that he can go through anything. What word are you living on today so that you can overcome? What word are you living on today so that when you are tempted, tested, tried, you can overcome? Because, the trial's coming, and it will not come. Listen, the devil hardly ever comes to you straightforward and says, just tell a lie. He always comes around the corner. What do you think about this? Why are you doing that? Oh, I know you said this, but it don't really matter. Is it really that important? That's just those religious Christians. Jesus quotes the law, the Torah of all things, to the devil. And he causes the devil to stand down. Now, these temptations of Jesus will come in 3 parts. First of all, he appeals to us just the desires of the flesh. And this is the normal pattern. The normal pattern, there's a 3-fold pattern of temptation in the Bible that will always come to us. We'll be tested on what we want because we're craving it. The great swallowing temptation in the world today is lust of the flesh. It's pretty much sensuality. And that's why when you're talking to a crowd, the majority of any crowd you talk to will be pretty ravaged by that temptation. Pretty ravaged. And our culture is just, it's so soaked in it and sated in it that what happens to you when you get soaked in a temptation after a while, it doesn't seem like it's a big deal. You take of anything in your life, the first time you did it, you went away and you really felt, oh my gosh, what did I do? It's so awful. I can't believe I did it. And you cried and you begged for forgiveness. And then after a while you went, that's not so bad. I'm not doing what that guy's doing. I sound like a Baptist, don't I? I'm just giving you an excuse not to listen. Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. That means I need words inside of me. I need something inside of me. I need a voice inside of me. The way you plant the voice of God inside of you is by abiding in the revealed word of Scripture. You start there. If you abide in the revealed word of Scripture, there'll be a storehouse in you, and the Spirit will quicken something. That is to say, make it alive. Listen, the Spirit of God has a Google search. If you put the files in, the Google search will land on it. And call it up, and God will speak to you by His Spirit and often through His Word. And Jesus just comes and says, but it is written. And so he's in this temptation. I'm gonna hurry. I was gonna talk about fasting, but You've heard some stuff about fasting. I don't have time. Really quickly, though, fasting is this. It means you deny yourself so that you'll have something to give to others. Just like when the mission trip I went to in 1994, and the people there of Argentina, Cordoba, Argentina, they took care of me like I was a king. And I was wondering, why are they so, do they actually eat like this? And I kept paying attention to what was going on. You know what I found out? That these poor Christians in Cordoba, Argentina, in the rural area, had fasted before I got there to save their food and save their money so that when I came, they could feed me. That's God's true fast. And that's what he calls us to say no to ourselves and lay something aside so that we can honor others, specifically the poor, and give something to them. It's denial of self to help others. It's denial of self to hear another. I have to hear. And one of the things that you find that food does to us is dull our senses. And it's, oh my gosh, especially the foods we eat nowadays. You know, all I have to say is food buzz. You know what it is. You know how you weren't hungry and you ate a certain thing and all of a sudden you can't stop eating. Wait, I'm confessing my sin. Let's just say I know if you don't. So it's the denial of self so you can hear another. So Jesus ripped apart the food out of him so he could hear God. The children of Israel went into the wilderness, and I tell you, they were hungry when they cried out to God. Why did we come out here? And he took care of them. And so the devil says, you know how God took care of them. And look, if you're the Son of God, just handle this. But Jesus won't do it. Here's the Israel and Jesus connection from Deuteronomy. The Word of God says, the whole commandment that I command you today, you shall be careful to do, that you may live and multiply and go in and possess the land that the Lord swore to give to your fathers. And you shall remember the whole way that the Lord your God has led you these 40 years in the wilderness, that he might humble you, testing you to know what's in your heart. Anybody pray that prayer? Test me, Lord, and see what's in my heart. Whether you would keep his commandments or not. And he humbled you and let you hunger and fed you with manna, which you did not know, nor did your fathers know. In other words, he didn't answer by the means you expected him to answer, that he might make you know that man does not live by bread alone, but man lives by every word that comes from the mouth of the Lord. The word they were living on was the word that God said, get up and go out. And I'll take you where I'm going to take you. Your clothing did not wear out on you, and your foot did not swell these 40 years. He gave them healing. Know then that in your heart, as a man disciplines his son, the Lord your God disciplines you. And here we're in a passage where Jesus himself is going through the discipline of humanity, the discipline of life. And that's why the writer of Hebrews says, we don't have a high priest that's unlike us, but was tempted in every way, yet without sin, the Word of God says. Not only do we get tempted on the lust of the flesh, which, oh, by the way, I could preach a whole sermon on that, couldn't I? But we get tempted on our pride. The devil took him up to the holy city and set him on the pinnacle of the temple and said to him, if you're the Son of God, there's that. If you are the Son of God, throw yourself down, for it is written. The devil's revised his thing. He will command his angels concerning you. You guys understand the devil is prophesying to Jesus, giving him a psalm. On their hands they will bear you up, lest you strike your foot with a stone. How many times has the devil quoted the Bible to you to get you to twist up? He'll even do that. Or somebody's giving you a prophetic word, and the devil will use that prophetic word to get you to act bad. Don't they know who I am? I've had people come in the church and want promotion in the church and want elevation in the church, and they've had prophetic words. And you don't recognize it the day they arrive on the scene. And suddenly they're in a twist with you. Stop. By the way, the only way to come into any kind of group, any kind of people group, any kind of public group, any kind of church group, the only way to come in anyway is come in low and come in slow. And when you do that, they'll invite you. When you do that and you walk in a way humbly and patiently, sooner or later somebody will say, what do you think? That's the way it works. You earn a voice. I remember coming in to a pastoral staff, and I'm the low man on the totem pole, 7 pastors on the staff, and I'm the 7th hired. And yes, the word is hired, because I could be fired. And having to be quiet, having to wait. What a great lesson. What a good lesson. If you're the Son of God, throw yourself down. Jesus said to him, again it is written, you shall not put the Lord your God to the test. Wait a minute. That's from Deuteronomy. So let's be sure we got the roles right. God can drive you in the wilderness, that you be put to the test, but it's not your job to test him. Okay, I need this memo. Because I have people tell me sometimes, if God doesn't do this, then I'm out. And I'm like, why don't you leave now? Why wait? You shall not put the Lord your God to the test. So somebody says, yeah, I think I can jump off there. Again, the devil took him to a very high mountain. High mountains, by the way, in the Bible, were the places where the gods dwelled. In biblical days, you didn't hike up mountains. You didn't. There weren't trails up mountains, and it wasn't a sightseeing thing. And you were pretty sure if you went up a mountain, if you were in an ancient world and you had an ancient world mindset, that you were on God's territory or the God's territory, and you could be in trouble. The devil took him to a very high mountain. I've never thought about the aspect of this. How did the devil do that? And he showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their glory. If you read the last bit of the book of Revelation, you'll see the kings of the earth come into the city of God and bring their glory. And he said to him, all these I will give you if you will fall down and worship me. And what he does here is he steps right into Jesus' mission, and he says to him, I can give you a shortcut to your mission. I can accomplish in a moment what you're on a path to. Now, understand this. This is the heart of why Jesus came. Jesus came to get the nations. What was lost in Eden and what was lost in the wilderness. What was lost when the creation children rebelled, and what was lost when the covenant children rebelled, Jesus came to get it. In other words, he didn't just come for a few remnant of people. Jesus came for the nations. He came for all the peoples of all the earth, which is the answer to your universalism question. He came to get them all. He's after them all. Worship me. Just worship. Just worship me. If you fall down, I'll give it to you. Jesus didn't say they're not yours, by the way. And theologically, I believe that Satan had the right in that day and time to make that offer. I believe that when the text said he was the God of this world, that's the sort of thing that's being talked about, is that he had authority, a temporary authority in this world, that when Adam and Eve abandoned their vocation, which was to exercise dominion over all the earth, that dominion was transferred to spirits and powers. And Jesus now comes, confronts the power, and he's there to get it. But the devil says the price is worship. Any god will give you what they have if you worship them. Aphrodite, Mammon, Mars, all the gods of this world will give you what they have. They will give you money, sex, and power if you worship them, if you give your devotion to them. This thing of following Jesus, can I tell you the truth? It's not that it's been tried and found wanting. It's that it's not been tried because it's hard. Lots of people count the cost and say, I can't go there. Most of us, if we're following Jesus, we count the cost and we said, we're not able. And he said, I am. And then we joined him and he enables us. You shall worship the Lord your God, and him only shall you serve. I'm not serving the gods of this age. I'm not serving mammon. I'm not serving sensuality. I'm not serving violence. I'm not serving power. I'm not serving the political spirit. I'm not serving the religious spirit. I'm not serving the lies of the devil. I'm not serving the enemy. You can get your daytimer mapped out by not following the gods of this earth. You can get all your life organized, disciplined by refusing the call of the gods. Idolatry is the root of all sins. Idolatry is the root of all sins. And when I say that God has a universal desire to save all the nations, what I'm not saying is that all the nations have a path to God through the gods. I'm not saying that. I'm saying all the gods of this age will be conquered and overcome, and Christ will be all in all. And justice will be delivered to all the peoples of all the earth, and he'll do some things that'll be surprising, and I'm good with it. It is the Lord your God you shall fear, Deuteronomy chapter 6 and 13. Him you shall serve, and by his name you shall swear. You shall not go after other gods, the gods of the people who are around you. For the Lord your God is in the midst of you. He's a jealous God, lest the anger of the Lord your God be kindled against you, and he destroy you from the face of the earth. At the root of all ungodliness is idolatry. And that's why when you come to the New Testament, there's two things that the apostles go after as they write about, and they challenge with the people. Two things they challenge all the time: idolatry and its twin, immorality. Because as idolatry is the worship of false gods, immorality is the worship of yourself. And you will always find immorality where you find idolatry, and vice versa. And then the scriptures, they go after them. And if there's any walls that are being pulled down in the culture these days, it's the wall of even saying that there is such a thing as immorality. And everywhere I look, Christians are saying, why are you in a twist about immorality? Because I've read my Bible. And because I understand my flesh. And because I can see the ravage that's coming on all the earth. And then the devil left him. And behold, angels came and were ministering to him. Rhetorical question. Have you ever had a moment where you knew the devil left you? Now that you're prepared, an actual question. Have you ever had a moment when you knew the devil left you? Okay, we got to get some more moments in here. 1977 was the first of those moments for me. I found out that there was some untaken territory in my life where a demonic stronghold had gotten hold of my life and had ravaged my life. And along came a minister and ministered to me, and I got freedom. And I'll never forget the freedom I got. It was dramatic. It was frightening. was powerful. 2 days later, I found myself by myself, sitting in my apartment and hearing for the first time, as clear as anything, spirits speaking to me and saying, "You think you're free, we'll have you back. We'll have you back." And the fear came on me, not of God, just fear, just frozen fear. And I did two things. Well, I pulled out my Bible, and I pulled out Jack Taylor's book, Victory Over the Devil, and I started reading to the devil. And I found in Papa Jack's book, he had a whole list of scriptures that you read to the devil for spiritual warfare. And I started saying them out loud. And it wasn't any time before the fear had left me. And the presence of God settled on me. And I fell down to my knees and I said, "Lord, you mean I can win? You mean I can win?" Yeah, but not without a battle. Because just like with Jesus, he shows up and then he comes again and then he comes again. It's the same way with us. He comes and then he comes again and then he comes again. And I love my friend Steve Williams, who says, when the devil shows up in my room, I tell him to go to hell. Or Martin Luther, who says he woke up from his dream and saw the devil at the foot of his bed and said, "It's only you." Or the time when he was writing his books and he threw his inkwell at the devil. These things sound crazy, but how crazy does it sound when Jesus was taken to the pinnacle of a mountain and shown the kingdoms of the earth and offered them and said, "Get lost! I'll only worship one. You shall worship the Lord your God, and him only shall you serve." And the Bible says, listen to it, then the devil left him. I like that. And then it says, and angels came and were ministering to him. Now get in touch with that. By the way, do you remember that one of the things the devil said, he'll send his angels? Guess what he did? Act 1, testing and temptation. For the record, that's the longest act. That'll help you some. Act 2, opportunity and suffer. The overall question is what? Who will follow? Number one thing to say to you, if you're going to follow Jesus, you're going to go through temptation and testing. And no one can take you out of that. That is the reality of the walk that we are in. We're going to be tested. We're going to be tempted. We're going to be tried. And it's important that we overcome. Jesus' word from heaven to all of his churches is, and to him who overcomes, and to him who overcomes, and to him who overcomes. I remember when I first saw that in my King James Version of the book of Revelation when I was reading it. And I went all the way through the book marking every time I saw that word. Because I went, that's good. I didn't understand the strength of it at the time, the importance of it, but it has come stronger and stronger upon me. In Act 2, we pick up in Matthew chapter 4. Now when he heard that John had been arrested, he withdrew to Galilee. What? Matthew has not prepared us for this. Wait, John was the dude announcing Jesus. John was the dude baptizing. John was the dude with voice. John was the guy with the crowd. John was winning. Wasn't he winning? He had the crowds on his side. But Jesus comes and John announces Jesus, and the next thing we know, we hear, now when he heard that John had been arrested. This is the first we've heard of it. Nobody tweeted it out. He withdrew to Galilee. Now understand this. This is Jesus, and he's being strategic. Having fought a battle, if you're a general, all generals know this. Pick the ground. The guy who picks the ground wins the battle. Come with me to Gettysburg, and I'll show you that field across which Pickett charged. And you'll say, what madman ran across that field to that fortified position thinking that he could win the day? Because the ones who had the ground won the war. Jesus is now picking his ground. And in this case, his ground is not the seat of authority yet. It's not Jerusalem. It's not where the principalities and powers are ensconced. He withdraws to Galilee, where the simpler people are, where folks like the way he was raised up were. He goes to Galilee, and leaving Nazareth, the town where he was raised, and he went and lived in Capernaum by the sea. Oh, come with me there. In the territory of Zebulun and Naphtali, so that what was spoken by the prophet Isaiah might be fulfilled. In the land of Zebulun, the land of Naphtali, the way of the sea beyond the Jordan, Galilee of the Gentiles, the people dwelling in darkness have seen a great light. Do you know that people are dwelling in darkness? Do you know that Israel's vocation was to be the light of the world? And here in this passage, we are being told that the people who were the light of the world were dwelling in darkness, have seen a great light, and those dwelling in the region and shadow of death, on them the light has dawned, and Jesus has come, and he shines his light there. But we have the contrast of opportunity and suffering. Can I tell you something? If you follow Jesus, you're going to suffer. It might not be anything but the loss of your friends. It might not be anything but the loss of your comfort. It might not be anything, but it'll be the loss of something. I love Iris Ministries. You guys know Iris Ministries. It's Roland and Heidi Baker. Heidi will be here in March. We're going to have a great time with her. By the way, we're going to do something radical before she gets here. We're going to raise the offering before she comes. What do you think about that? What do you think about that? We're going to raise a big fat mission offering before she gets here. And we're going to do it through guess what? The 40 days after that Tuesday, through the season of fasting. We're going to raise a big offering for the poor because Heidi takes care of the poor. So we're going to do that. In fact, I'm telling you, probably I'm going to start challenging this church every Easter and every Christmas to raise up a big offering for missions and for the poor. Would you like that idea? Well, the other thing I like about Iris Ministries, I like their values. I like the way it starts. One of their values is God can be found. It's interesting that the people who know the Lord are to seek the Lord. The people who know him are to seek him. It's always that way. And so, but we seek him because we know we can find him. It used to be for me that the way of seeking the Lord was very hard. I found it was very hard as a Christian to seek the Lord. And part of that was because I believed that all my sins kept me from finding him. And then I realized, no, they've all been dealt with. I can find him a lot quicker than I think. And then by faith, I began to just call on his name and realize that the same way he came to me when he saved me, he comes to me again and again and again and again. And now he's much nearer. The Lord is at hand. The kingdom of God is at hand, always close, near. He can be found. But the other value that I like in Iris Ministries is that we believe that if we follow him, we will suffer. It's hard. But the light has dawned. And so Jesus was in his Galilean ministry, and from that time Jesus began to preach, saying, "Repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand." He didn't say, "Go on a crying jag because you looked at the wrong thing or read the wrong thing or ate the wrong thing." He said, turn around, reorder yourself, reorder your life. Get your priorities sorted out. It's time to turn around. The kingdom is at hand. There's no time to get ready. Now's the time to go. The kingdom is at hand. All the way through the Bible, when people come to Jesus and they say, well, can we wait? He always says no, by the way. Let the dead bury the dead. He always says no. He says, no, we're going now. We're going to go now. So, it's real simple. Act 2, I told you it was short. There it is, opportunity. There's an opportunity to follow. but there'll be suffering. And he starts this piece off with the one that Jesus got inaugurated into his ministry is taken out of the way. And now, you know what that means? Jesus, you're the top of the food chain now. And then strategically, like Kim came and told us, be shrewd, Jesus shrewdly moves to a place of battle in Galilee where he sets up his war. Because now he's about to call an army. He's won a battle, which is out of order. He then picks the ground, and then he calls the army. Frankly, if you're a soldier, you get an army, you pick the ground, and you fight the battle. Jesus turned the thing upside down and did it another way. So expect to suffer. Act 3, leaving things behind. Or, if you will, answering the call. While Jesus was walking by the Sea of Galilee. Anybody ever been to the Sea of Galilee? Just a few. I've been there. And if you go to the Sea of Galilee now, when I went, I've only been there once, but when I went, there's a fishing boat that's been pulled out of the Sea of Galilee that dates back to the time of Jesus. You get an actual view of what it was like, and they have this fishing boat in a museum. While walking by the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon, you know, the one called Peter, that guy, and Andrew, his brother, casting a net into the sea, for they were fishermen. And he said to them, follow me, and I'll make you fishers of men. Don't miss this word. Immediately, they left their nets and followed him. Jesus, we have some arrangements to make. Listen, the Bible puts us, when I look at this, I can't fathom it. I really can't fathom it. But I know this. There are times and seasons, and when people hear the call so clear that it doesn't matter. I have a friend in town this week. In fact, he just texted me this morning, my friend Frank. Back in the early 70s, Frank and I were young, going into college students. And Frank had an older brother. And Frank's older brother had gone off to college and gotten radically converted. Frank comes home and sees his dad. And his dad says, have you seen your brother? No. I don't know what to tell you. This family was devout Catholics, but they didn't actually have a personal relationship to Jesus. He says, I don't know what to tell you, Frank. He's different. He's different. And as soon as Frank was told that, the Spirit of God pierced his heart. And Frank was out that night. I don't know if I have the timing right, but his brother came into town and found Frank and pulled up at the house where he was. And Frank came out the door to meet his brother in the front yard. And the brother said, Frank, I want to talk to you. And Frank threw up his hands and said, you don't have to tell me anything. Just tell me what I have to do. He got converted, and 40 members of his family got converted in the wake of that. And these boys started going door to door and talking to people about Jesus, and it stirred up the Catholic Church against them because they said, you can't do this. And the priest went to Frank's father, who was a barber in the town, and he said, you got to do something about your boys. And Frank's father, through his tears, said, all I know is I like the boys I got better than the boys I had. I'm not stopping them from anything. I won't stop them. I heard from my friend Frank this morning, his dad's at VA hospital having another heart attack. I'll have to get over there. Immediately, they left their nets and followed him. Pray that God will speak to you with such crystal clarity that there's nothing you won't leave for him. Nothing. And going on from there, he saw two other brothers. You know these guys. James, the son of Zebedee, and John, his brother. In the boat with Zebedee, their father. Listen to what they were doing. Mending the nets. And he called them. And what? Immediately, they left their boats and their father and followed him. I'll tell you, the text wants you to understand something. You didn't leave your father's house. You were responsible for the family. And like Abraham was called to leave his father's house, James and John were called to leave their father and immediately and follow him. Who will follow? Oh, who will follow? That's the call today. That's what, man, I got to reading this text. I'm like, it's an old familiar text. And God shivered me again. Will you do it as radically, Alan, today as you did in the days when I first called you? And you reordered your life. You said, I won't study this, I'll study that. And you said, I'll go wherever he takes me. And I'll do whatever it takes. And in my case, it took 9 years before I got settled into what God had called me to do. Move after move and study after study and thing after thing. I probably could have done it faster. But I tell you what I did. I obeyed the voice. As near as I could tell, I just said, I'm obeying this voice. Now look, I want to show you something that I'd never seen before. This is so beautiful. James, the son of Zebedee, and John, his brother, in the boat with Zebedee, their father. Listen to what it says. Mending their nets. Can you say that? All right, the word mending is the word katartismos. You say, well, what's that? It's the same word over in Ephesians chapter 4 when he says, and he calls some to be apostles and some prophets and some evangelists and some pastors and teachers for the equipping of the saints. It's exactly the same word. They were in the vocation of restoring nets to catch fish. And God said, I'll just pick that up and take that and I'll use you and I'll make you my apostle. And you'll mend souls to catch souls. The apostolic function, my function in this house today, is to knit you together in such a way that you can be the catchers. You are the fishers of men. You are the light of the world. You are what God's using. You're his seed cast out and to grow a crop. Mending the nets. And immediately, they left the boat and followed him. And we're almost done, but not quite. Not quite. Guys, I love you, but we have a vocation to do. And God's calling us, and he's stirring us in our church. And I think he's stirring up the waters. There's some things he's calling us to. We've not only been called to do this thing we're doing here, but we're called to join with the body of Christ throughout the city. We're called to take our place among the elders of the city and among those who have the business of looking over the heart of God, looking over the city for the heart of God. We're supposed to join ourselves to every other church where they love God and preach the gospel and bless them and speak well of them and join with them and pray with them and work with them and labor with them. It's time for us to take a new place in our city. I'm going to be talking to you about some prayer initiatives that involve us getting beyond ourselves. Not just prayer initiatives, but action initiatives. There's a thing coming to our city in June where the churches of the city will come together to give away $1 million worth of goods and services to the poor. And we're going to join with churches that speak in tongues and churches that speak in Latin. And we're going to do this stuff. And we're going to speak well of one another. And we're going to honor one another. And we're going to do the things of the kingdom. There's people that do things that need help, and we're going to help them. We're going to do this stuff. We're going to do it. Just like this. This is where Jesus went to battle. You got it? This is the epilogue. Defeat the devil, choose the ground, raise the army, give them their orders. Here's your orders, church. And he went throughout Galilee, teaching in their synagogues and proclaiming the gospel of the kingdom. The gospel of the kingdom means, I love this. I love this, that Jesus proclaimed the kingdom even though he was the king. When John proclaimed the kingdom, he then said, there's the king, the anointed one. When Jesus came as the king, he still proclaimed the kingdom. When the apostles go forth, you know what they did? They proclaimed the king. Because the way to get in the kingdom is to get the king. And he went through all Galilee, teaching in their synagogues and proclaiming the gospel of the kingdom and healing every disease and every affliction among the people. This is where we're thrown into things that we cannot do, but we must try. So his fame spread throughout all of Syria, and they brought him all the sick and those afflicted with various diseases and pains, and those oppressed by demons. Sometimes you can't tell which ones are demonically oppressed and which ones are biologically oppressed. You can't tell. You deal with them all. Those having seizures and paralytics. And he healed them. And great crowds followed him from Galilee and the Decapolis, the 10-city area, and from Jerusalem and Judea and beyond the Jordan. Marching orders, they don't change. Marching orders. Here's the question: who will follow? We're going to do less conferences as a church and more evangelistic outreaches. We're going to do less being equipped and more going and doing the stuff. We're going to be stealth about it. We're going to have good manners, and we're going to go out. We're not going to make a show of ourselves. We're going to humbly pray for the sick. We're going to humbly speak the kingdom of God to people. And we're going to be with people who don't understand and don't like for praying for the sick or healing the sick. And we're going to do it with such good manners that we're not going to offend our brothers and sisters. Well, we'll offend somebody. But we're going to do this. I've been paying attention more and more. We bring people in, we receive impartations. It's time to release impartations. You'll never know what God will do until you go with God and do it. Will we fail? Yes. And we will win. And we will succeed. And we will overcome. And we will have joy. And great crowds followed him from Galilee and Decapolis and from Jerusalem and Judea and beyond the Jordan. You know, that's the missionary mandate in reverse again. He's from Galilee, and he's got to go now to Judea and Jerusalem. So that then he'll go from Jerusalem to Judea to Samaria to the nations. So, Father, thank you for this commission that we have. Would you stand together? Who will follow? Who will follow? Who indeed will follow? If you're pretty sure you're not going to come for prayer this morning, but you'd like to be on the ministry team, would you come forward? I want the ministry team forward. Okay, I have enough coming. If I need more, I'll call more. If you're coming, just come on. But otherwise, come on. If you're coming, come. But otherwise, I've got enough. I've got enough. Spread out to the left here. Some, okay. Okay. Holy Spirit, would you come? It's practice time. If you're in pain of body or soul, if you're in pain of body or soul, it's your turn to come and get prayer. Just go ahead and start coming. If there's any pain in your body or pain in your soul, so pain in your mind, pain in your heart, I want you to come get prayer. Pain in your life. If there's a call to discipleship on your life and you want to stir it back up, one of the best things you can do is come forward and say, the Lord called me and I've backed off my calling. But this morning I want to say, I'm back on track. And I want you to pray for me to get back on track.